Well, looking at the broader picture on the manufacturing business, we want to bring in Richard Kagundah, who is the Managing Director at Britannia. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon.
It's a pleasure to be here, Abi.
Well, picking off from the Manufacturing Summit, a number of enterprises have been facing a difficult period, of course, linked to the pre-election and the post-election. What's the situation for Britannia?
Well, Britannia has not been spared from some of those realities. I had Rita talk about the resilience of the Kenyan consumer. And what we have experienced is also the resilience in our employees, in our suppliers, in the consumer, and ultimately the resilience of the Kenyan economy.
Sure.
Yeah.
And looking at the confectionery space, there's been a number of developments, especially when Britannia was acquired by Catalyst. Looking at, from an operation point of view, just paint for us the picture in relation to the confectionery business. Has it been growing? Has it stagnated?
Fortunately, this has been a good year, despite the fact that we've faced some macroeconomic headwinds. We've been growing a little bit ahead of GDP, but the growth could have been much better if consumer confidence was higher. We've also been impacted by some of the changes that have taken place in the retail industry. So, these two factors have tempered our growth to a certain extent. But
how significant?
All in all, I would say for the year, probably we are talking of about 15 to 20% for the confectionery and most food and beverage industries, 15 to 20% down.
All right. And Kagundah, looking at the dynamics we continue to see in the retail space, Uchumi is facing challenges, Nakumatt, and of course, this creates a sort of problem for people like you because you supply this value chains. Talk to us about the impact of this in terms of sales. And of course, there's also the other side to the story where we're seeing the big boys coming into the Kenyan space.
Yeah. Yeah. The changes that have taken place, especially those affecting the local retail chains, have been quite unfortunate. Nakumatt and Uchumi have been great customers of Britannia, and a lot of our shoppers go to these outlets to buy our biscuits. When I look at the amount of business that is at risk with these two customers not performing, we are talking of maybe between 20 to 25%. But when you step back and look at the macroeconomic story around Kenya, Kenya is still a very attractive country for business. And a lot of these multinationals like Carrefour and Choppies are looking at Kenya as an entry point to East Africa. So our macroeconomic fundamentals are still in good shape. Inflation is under control, unemployment the same. GDP growth, with the exception of what happened during the election period, is still quite robust.
All right.
So those changes have affected us in one way, but then we've also seen growth coming in from foreign players.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of the foreign players, Robert, it creates an interesting scenario for Kenya and, of course, for the manufacturing companies. Yeah. What's in the horizon, really, when you look at the massive opportunities? We're seeing Carrefour announcing they will be taking over at TRM, and, of course, other dynamics and shifts that continue to happen.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I think that when I think about what's taking place in the retail industry, there's only one thing I can be sure of. Massive transformational change is coming. When you have Carrefour come into a market, this is a supermarket with about 1,500 outlets all over the world,
sure,
much bigger than what we have here in Kenya. And the kind of systems and processes that they bring into the market and their understanding of their shopper and how they design the entire business model to attract that shopper and keep them coming back. It will have to force our local retailers to rethink their own business model. And we've seen that starting to play with, I believe it's Naivas, have launched an online shopping platform.
Sure.
These are the types of things I really hope to see a lot more with our local supermarkets. If they don't change, it will be an Uber story, where you have global players coming in with best practices, and the Kenyan shopper will be swayed away into these customers.
Right. Yeah. Finally, what's your outlook for the confectionery business?
For 2018, it's been a bit of a soft year. But looking into Q1 and into 2018,
yes.
I see the growth coming back. I see the consumer confidence coming back, and there's a little bit of stability in terms of some of our commodity prices. So we're looking forward to a very strong Q1 and a very, very strong 2018.
All right. Looking forward to monitoring how this will pan out. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Abby.
Appreciate your time.
Indeed.
Well, we've been speaking there to the